Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 innocent kids who went to prison. We all see kids as innocent because, well, they seem like they are. But here are a few times when kids who look very harmless and innocent ended up being behind bars. Get ready for a shock when I tell you the reasons why, especially for the last one on this list. Before we get into it, be sure to click the link in the top right corner to subscribe to my new second channel. Coming in at number 10, we have Alex King. This kid looks very innocent. He's well dressed and seems very normal, so you might assume he's never done anything wrong. But Alex King, who was 12 at the time, was sent to jail. He had formed a relationship with his neighbor Ricky Chavez. They'd made love notes and did illegal substances together. But one day, Ricky told Alex to hit his dad with a metal baseball bat as his dad was asleep. Alex did this and took his dad's life. The court case led to some debate, as some say Alex was to blame, but others say the young boy was clearly manipulated by Ricky Chavez. This meant he was put away for 12 years behind bars and was released in 2013. He now wants to live a normal life and is apparently working in a restaurant and living in California. Do you think Alex is to blame or his neighbor Ricky? Next up is Mary Bell. This is one innocent looking girl who ended up behind bars. That's already frightening, but wait until I tell you where she is now. Mary Bell took two boys' lives named Martin Brown and Brian Howe. They were 4 and 3 years old and were actually two separate incidents. Mary was just 10 years old the first time and 11 years old the second time she took a life. The judge called her a serious danger and she was placed in a child prison named Red Bank. Later she was moved to an adult prison where she stayed for 12 years. But when she was freed, she was given a new identity to protect her. That's right, she's freely walking the streets today. Reports now say she's a mother, which is very scary for her kid. And every year, apparent sightings of Mary are still all over the press. Next up, we have Heather Opel. A few years back, Barbara Opel got into an argument with her boss. She got mad and wanted him gone, so she did what any reasonable person would do and plotted to end her boss's life. She told her daughter Heather Opel that she had to take her boss's life, and even said she would pay her if she did it. So Heather pretended to ask for a jobless store, but then used a knife to cut her mum's boss, taking his life. And what makes this even worse is that the guy was very ill. After the hit was carried out, Barbara paid Heather $200. But it didn't take long for her to get captured and sentenced to prison time despite her mother telling her to commit the crime. But don't worry, Barbara was also punished with 20 years behind bars, which is surprisingly less than her daughter. Heather was only 12 years old, but she was sentenced to life behind bars. Some say this is too harsh, but others say she deserves it for what she did. What do you think? Next up is Max McDougall. We've seen kids in prison who have done some really bad things on this list, but not every kid behind bars has done something wrong. Max McDougall has committed no crimes as he's only 4 years old. His mother Jacqueline, on the other hand, has. She stole silverware to support her substance habit and she was sentenced to prison time. She was pregnant when she went to prison and Max has grown up with her behind bars. Jacqueline says it's good as prison was the wake-up call she needed to get clean, but you still do have to feel bad for little Max who has to grow up in prison with his mom. Next up, we have Nate Anderson. This criminal kid looks incredibly innocent and scared in court. But when he was just 15, he shot his 29-year-old sister named Amanda in the head. He confessed to doing it and asked his family for forgiveness, which they gave him. For some mysterious reason, the family wanted to keep his motivation for this a secret. They got their wish, and after Anderson pleaded guilty, there was no trial. At 16, he was sentenced to solitary confinement as a safety precaution against other inmates. But now he'll be forced to live in a regular adult prison. He'll serve 20 years behind bars, but will be eligible for parole in 10. I just want to know why his family wanted to keep why Nate did this a secret. Next up is Nicole KIPFMILLER. When we think of a teenage Instagram blogger, we think of a regular girl who has a nice life. But this is one teenage blogger who is locked behind bars. She shocked the world when she took the life of her newborn son when she was 19. She bought a self-birthing kit and secretly had the baby. She then left the baby in a trash container while she tried to cover her tracks. But she was later found out and said she didn't want the embarrassment of her parents finding out she had a baby at 19. At first, she blamed the baby's father, but refused to give his name. She pleaded not guilty and said thanks to her age, she didn't realize what she was doing. But we all know right from wrong at age 19, so the judge and jury didn't buy it and sentenced her to 8 to 14 years in prison. This is one crazy prison sentence for anyone, especially a kid. Next up is Antonio Barbeau. This kid looks innocent enough, but this is far from his true self. This criminal kid shocked the world not only for what his crime was, but for who his victim was. He hacked at his grandma with an axe, causing her demise. He then ran to her bathroom and threw up. He was crying when he was explaining what happened in court, so his attorney had to take over. But it was so sad, his attorney began to cry too. What happened was he originally just wanted to rob his grandmother, but his accomplice had messed things up, and he said he thought this was the only option. Antonio called it a moment of madness, but the judge said it was the worst crime he'd ever seen and sentenced him to 36 years in jail, meaning that Antonio won't be released until he's at least 50. Next up is Zachary NEAGLE. This is the most baby-faced criminal on this entire list. In 2009, Zachary shotgunned his dad in the head while he was sleeping. He was just 14 at the time and was chained up in court. He sat looking terrified at his lawyer during the hearing and was found guilty. The reason why Zachary did this was apparently because his father was nasty to him in a very big way somehow, and he felt he had to save himself and his brother and sister. But despite this, now Zach will face 14 years behind bars, meaning he will eventually be transferred to an adult's prison. Online petitions have actually been made to prevent this, but who knows if they'll work. Do you think this is too harsh considering Zachary's motives, or not? Coming up next is Jessica CARNLINE. This is one kid who looks very innocent, but isn't. And I guarantee you'll never see a more scared person in court. In 2014, this 17-year-old girl was driving a big red Chevy, but she'd been inhaling a substance at the time, which ironically made her crash into a hospital. This sadly took the lives of 2 people. She said she just wanted to have fun and drive around, but things went horribly wrong. She was sentenced to a massive 40 years behind bars, which many say is way too far. But seeing as she did do something really bad, what do you think about this? Next up is Josh Phillips. Josh Phillips is the youngest person to ever receive a life sentence. When he was just 14, he took the life of Maddie Clifton. He claimed a baseball hit Maddie's head while they were playing, but the court didn't believe this one bit and were harsh on Josh as a result. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He's already spent nearly half his life behind bars and is currently at a maximum security prison. Since going to prison, he's realized his true passion is education, and he actually graduated high school and college from prison. Since then, laws have changed and judges are no longer allowed to give kids life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now Josh's case is being reviewed and he may be out sooner than he thought. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the craziest instance of a kid in jail. And guys, be sure to head over to my new channel Crafty and subscribe. There's amazing DIY and craft videos on there, so definitely check it out. And as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.